This is Bora Bora. It's part of French Polynesia and lies in the central South Pacific Ocean, about 165 miles northwest of Tahiti. The island's original name means created by the gods, and it isn't hard to see why. Bora Bora has an established reputation for romance. It's known the world over as a honeymoon hotspot. And it doesn't stop there. Bora Bora is an ecological paradise. Its tropical beauty is home to hundreds of underwater species. Owing to the nature of the way that the island is configured, there is a ring of smaller islands surrounding a larger one. This means that the main way of getting about on Bora Bora is by boat. And finally, Bora Bora is part of the Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 World Update 13 Oceania Pack. It's free, my favourite price, so I thought it would be perfect for some circuit training. Today, we'll be flying from Bora Bora Airport, which has received some love as part of the update. So, sit back, relax, and let's introduce this next exciting episode of Artificial Aviation. Hello and welcome, aviators. We are here on the beautiful island of Bora Bora. Join me as I practice flying in the pattern, introduce our new airplane, the Piper Arrow III, and share the sights of Bora Bora as part of the latest World Update 13. Stick with me to the end as I'll be making 5 attempts to improve my pattern. With each pass, I'll be showing you a new idea or technique that I'm learning to try and improve my landings, takeoffs, and patterns. I'll also be setting myself a challenge. Can I do all 5 landings without bouncing off the runway? Stay with me to find out. And finally, don't forget, subscribe to the channel for more artificial aviation delivered directly to your face. If you do find yourself enjoying the video, hit that like button below to let me know. Let's get to it. So, the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to start up the Piper PA-28. This is the Arrow III by Just Flight. This isn't sponsored. I'm not doing anything with them. This is something I bought because it's an airplane that I really like. I like general aviation aircraft, and it's something that maybe I hope to fly for real someday. So it's got a retractable landing gear, and it also has a constant speed propeller, which is this little blue doohickey here, which I'll try and explain about as we go through the video. So the first part of this is, let's get this bird fired up and let's get taxi to the runway, and then let's start flying our circuits. So normally what I would do is, if this was real life, I would do like a walk around the aircraft. I'd check things like my oil pressure and stuff. I'm not going to do that today because I think that's probably too much for this video. And it takes away from what I'm trying to do, which is to get more acquainted with the handling of the airplane. So if you do want to see a video on that, drop a comment below. And I'll do one. Okay, so because of that, we're going to skip pre-flight interior, pre-flight exterior. We're going to have a look at before engine start. So the first thing we need to check is that all our circuit breakers are in, which they are. Looking good. Okay. Our alternate air is off, which I can see that it's closed, so that's fine. The propeller RPM lever should be set to max RPM, so let's do that now. Or I should use my throttle quadrant here, otherwise that's going to get confusing later on. So that's set to max RPM. Fuel selector should be set to fullest tank. Now, I actually have the same amount in both tanks, so we will literally just set this to the right-hand tank. Now, for those of you who don't know what this doohickey is, this aeroplane, I happen to know, has a fuel tank in each wing, one on the left and one on the right. Unlike in my Cessna, they're not linked. So what that means is I need to switch between which tank it takes the fuel from. And I need to be careful because I've got left and right tanks here, and I don't want them to get imbalanced because it will affect how the aircraft handles. So I have to keep an eye on that while I'm flying. So we've done that. Fuel selector is set to the fullest tank. Check. So engine start. We're going to go from cold. So we're going to open the throttle up 1/2 inch. So let's do that now. Battery switch is, we're going to set to on. So let's do that now. I've got a button here for it on my throttle quadrant. Yep, battery switch is on. Check. Alternator also on. Check. Beacon on. So it wants me to put my beacon light on, which we're going to do. Beacon, sorry. Which is that one. Beacon. Okay. Navigation lights. Actually, so if you're ever doing these checklists and you're not sure where the thing is, you can actually press the little blue button and it highlights the thing that it wants you to do. It seems to think that's my navigation lights, even though that actually says radio lights. This says radio lights, but if I turn them on and then I look outside the aircraft, yes, you see we've got this green light on the tip of the wing, and on the other side we should have a red light on the tip of the wing. So that means that turning the radio lights on also turns our navigation lights on. So that's something I've just learned about this aircraft, which is good. Now I also happen to know, because I looked it up, so here's tip number 1. Tip number 1 is, apparently, based on what I've read, if you're a real pilot, correct me in the comments, navigation lights don't need to be on. They're not a requirement for flying during the day, only at night. So I'm actually going to leave those off, because we don't actually need to have them on now, so they're going to stay off for the moment. So, sun's coming up. Auxiliary boost pump on. So auxiliary boost pump is this one. Now this is a manual pump for the fuel. Mixture, rich until flow peaks, then cut off. So we're going to see our mixture level there. We're going to push that up to full. Our fuel pressure is going to come up to peak. So that little dial there ran in, and then I'm going to pull it back to idle, and then to cut off position again. Actually, I'm going to have it in just like the really low. I'm not going to pull it to full cut off. I'm actually just going to have a little bit fed in because we want the engines to start. Propeller is clear, so I can't see anyone in the way, but here's where I'm going to embarrass myself now. If I open the window, let's open a little window. In this situation, you would shout out of the window to get everybody to clear the propeller area around you. So I'll move my checklist out of the way so I can see, and we'll shout out the window, clear prop. That's it. I've embarrassed myself on all the internet shouting out of an imaginary window. And now we can start the ignition. So let's get the ignition started. Got the keys in, so we're going to go right mag, left mag, both, and start. If we've done everything right, beautiful. She's whirred into action. Ignition start. So mixture goes to rich when engine starts. So we'll now move the engine started. So we'll move our mixture up to rich. Okay. Make sure we've got our parking brake on. Parking brake is set. So engine has been started successful. Magnetos are set to both. That's correct. With throttle will adjust to 1500 RPM. So the propeller should actually be set to max, which it now is. So I'm going to use the throttle to pull the RPMs down to 1500 RPM. Now there's something I should explain about this constant speed propeller, and that is this. Oh, we'll check our oil pressure first. We'll get through the checklist. Oil pressure check. Cool. Bit of scatterbrain done. So next job is taxiing, which we'll start in a minute. Now, constant speed propeller, yes. So we have this blue knob, which you might not be used to. I certainly wasn't prior to this. So one thing I've read up on is we have our manifold pressure here, which measures itself in inches of mercury. So 15, 20, 25. I believe that's 25. Oh, I'm hitting the yoke with the VR headset. Never good. And 55, is that? Okay, let's get the real yoke out of the way. Anyway, what we also have is our RPMs here. Now, the blue lever manages our RPMs, so if I pull that down, See our RPMs dropping subtly? If I push it all the way back in, they come back up subtly. And if I increase the throttle, you notice our manifold pressure come up, which at the moment is increasing our RPMs. So I'm going to pull that back down. Now, I'll explain more about this while we're in the air, but for now all you need to know is we're going to have the propeller in max, and the throttles, we're going to control the throttle on the ground. That's going to behave just like the Cessna we've been flying up to now, and everything will be fine. So, if you want to learn more about that and how to use it in flight, stay tuned. Cool. So, we've done all of that. Next job is to start to taxi. So, landing light as required. Now in this aircraft, the landing light, and this can happen, the landing light and the taxi light are the same thing. So we're going to turn that on, and if we whip outside now, now this is a requirement day or night. This isn't something you would skip out on. So we've got our light, which illuminates the ground in front of us. Let's put that back on. So we've got our landing light, check. Avionics are on. They're not, so we need to do that now. It's really annoying me the way this keeps jumping back in my vision. Ugh. Right, avionics. So we need to set these on, so let's do that now. Actually, that is on. Okay, cool. Here's one I made earlier. That is voice ident. I'm pretty sure actually that should be voice. I'm winging this, by the way, and then we'll switch COM 2 on as well. I'm going to set... we'll worry about tuning in a second. I'm just going to pull up our... I'm going to pull up our ATC menu. So, oh. Well, that's annoying. Okay, everybody, welcome back. Sorry about that little glitch. Apparently, I pushed it on the keyboard. I don't know what button I pushed, but it flung me basically into space. It threw me into the air, and that was no good because I wasn't finished setting up the airplane. So, after a quick reset, we're back where we started, more or less, and we're back to our checklist. So, radios are checked and set. Transponder needs to be set, so we set the transponder mode to out. Don't ask me why. I don't actually understand that yet, but we're setting it to out, and we'll leave it with the default code for the moment. Heading indicator set. So what we would do now is we'd look at our heading indicator here, which has our numbers, basically a compass, and it tells us that right now we're facing just off of south, which we would check now against our actual compass and say, is our heading indicator aligned properly? So this has got us 15, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, between 18 and 19 degrees. So is that what we got here? 18. That looks about right to me. That looks about spot on, so I'm happy with that. So that is set. The taxi area is clear. Yeah, we've got a member of ground crew over there that we desperately don't want to run over, and there doesn't seem to be anyone else around, so I think we're fine with that, so that's good. So all we've got to do is release the parking brake, and off we go, and we'll test the brakes on move and flight instrumentation. Now, we will want to do run-up checks, so before we do that, I want to listen out. I want to firstly get ATIS in. There is no ATIS here. Okay, that's not helpful. We need a windsock, because ideally we're supposed to do our ground run-up checks into the wind. It's alright, we'll get permission to taxi and we'll get going, and then we'll do our ground run-up checks from there. So, request taxi, remain in pattern.
Bora Bora ground, Piper November, Echo 9er, Bravo Foxtrot, request taxi for takeoff, touch, and go.
Piper November, Echo 9er, Bravo Foxtrot, taxi to and hold short of runway 29er using taxiway. Contact tower on 118.9er when ready.
So we need to confirm that request, so acknowledge that.
Taxiing hold short runway 29er via taxiway Piper 9er,
Okay, cool.
Bravo Foxtrot.
So we are allowed to taxi to and hold short of runway 29 using the taxiway, so we need to contact tower on 118.9 when we're ready and holding short. So basically we've got permission to move now, so we can whip off that parking brake, and we can turn here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull us up here to do our run-up checks. So we're going to put the parking brake on. Okay, we're stopping here. Let's do our ground checks. So we're going to make an assumption, because I can't see a windsock anywhere around here, unless I'm just being crazy and missing it. So we're just going to pretend that this is the direction of the wind. So parking brake is set, mixture is rich, prop RPM lever set to max RPM, set the throttle to 2000 RPM. So we need to take our throttle and push the manifold pressure up to the throttle. There we go, far too far, too sensitive. Pull it back down, back up. It's quite tricky to do because we're set at max prop RPM. There we go, 2000 RPM set. Right, mag check. So we are going to move to the left mag check, and we need to make sure that the RPM doesn't vary wildly when we switch to just one. So we have a left. So we dropped about 100 RPM, that's fine. Let's go to right, should stay the same. It does. So now what we're doing is, an aircraft should have redundancy. In this case, we've got two magnetos. We're checking that both are working before we take off. And it tells us here that we should see 150 RPM max decrease with a 50 RPM difference between the two. We've actually seen, well, I couldn't notice the difference between the two. So we'll go back to both now. We know they're working. Vacuum gauge check. Our gyro suction shows that it's between 4 and 6, so we're fine. All our pressures and temps, oil pressures and temps should be in the green. Pressure's green, temps green, we're good there. Ammeter, are we actually charging the battery? Yes, we are. Annunciators, test the annunciators. These are our warning lights. We can see that they're working, so that's fine. They should just light up when you test the button. Right, propeller, exercise, then full forward. So what we're going to do with the propeller is we're going to move it full forwards, right up to the bulkhead, check that it goes up, and then we're going to pull it back down and make sure that it's happy going up and down. We do that test 3 times. Remember, I'm not a real pilot. I don't do this. This is just based on what I've read and what I've heard through watching videos and talking to people. So if you're a real pilot, you're watching this, you're cringing horribly, feel free to drop a comment and let me know what I'm doing wrong, because you're going to help me learn. Right, we are good. So engine idle should drop between 650 RPM. We also want to make sure that the auxiliary boost pump goes off. Fuel pressure check. So we should have, oh, we had to check that before we drop it. Okay, back to 2000. So we should see that with 2000 RPM we got a good fuel pressure check. With the pump off, alternate air is still off. I haven't turned it on, so we're fine. And then engine idle, we should idle at about 600, 650. Now, I happen to know, because I have had a cheeky go in this aircraft before recording, that it doesn't. Yeah, I happen to know that it doesn't quite go. It actually goes down to 7. If you see 5, 6, 7, so it actually goes to 700. That seems to be normal for this plane, so we're going to disregard on that. We're going to be happy with that. Throttle, move it to 1200. In real life, I'd probably speak to someone about that, but this is a simulator. Nothing bad can happen, so ding, thumbs up. Right, okay. Before takeoff, alternator on, check. Strobe lights on. Okay, so I made some notes on lights here, which strobe, also known as anti-collision lights. Apparently they are only used during flight and on the runway, as they're too bright for use on the ground, particularly at night. So we're not going to turn those on until we get to the hold short line, because they can be quite bright. So let's minimize that. What we've got going on, strobe lights, we'll turn those on just as we get to the runway. On the run up, landing light on. Landing light is on. Oh, we just turned it off. It was on, we turned it off. Now it's on. Whoops. Auxiliary boost pump on. Check. Fuel selector, fullest tank. Yep, they're both full at the moment. That one will be slightly less full, but that's okay. Engine gauges, check. So I'm going to go with RPMs are good. Manifold pressure's fine. The fuel pressure's good. Oil temp's good. Oil pressure's good. That's fine. Mixture set to rich, check. Max RPM on prop lever, check. Set. Flaps, we haven't set flaps yet, so let's bring in a couple of degrees of flaps for the takeoff. This isn't a particularly short runway, but actually I'm only going to do 1 degree of flaps for this because this isn't a particularly short runway, so that should be fine. Trims are set. That means our trim wheel's set to 0, which it is, that's fine. Cabin doors are closed and latch, just reach over, closed and latch, check and check. We are good, so we're ready for takeoff. So let's taxi out to the hold short line. Now we're not going to create a blockage, releasing the parking brake, and we're going to taxi slowly out to the line. So look at me, I'm using the yoke like a steering wheel again, because I always get confused. So this looks like a taxiway to me. They haven't given us a specific... So that's the other thing. At a busier airfield, they'd give us a taxiway instruction, like they'd tell us which taxiways to take. Here, they've just told us to proceed to runway 29 and hold short. So IRLs, I would have written that down, but it's already written down for me, so I'm just going to take the win on that one. Not sure if I'm loving the lack of confidence here with the fire engine already parked up. Shocking. How dare they? This is going to be masterful, obviously. Okay, as we approach the hold short line now, just going to tap the toe brakes. Okay, we are just this side of the hold short line, which is where we want to be. We're now holding short, so we are going to request takeoff.
Bora Bora Tower, Piper November, Echo 9er, Bravo Foxtrot, ready at runway 29er, touch and go.
Piper November Echo 9er Bravo Foxtrot altimeter 29er decimal 9er 21 cone left touch and go approved. Cleared for takeoff runway 29er.
Just having a little drink there. So they've told us altimeter 29er 9er 2, so we know that we need to make sure our altimeter's properly calibrated before we try and take off. The last thing that we want to happen is to not know where the ground is. Acknowledge my takeoff clearance first because they're getting shirty.
Cleared for takeoff runway to 9er Piper 9er Bravo Foxtrot.
29er 9er 2. Okay, what we also want to do, so now we're now calibrated, so this is above ground level is calibrated for. We actually have a backup altimeter over here because, again, planes redundancy, everything redundant, so we want to set it on both of our altimeters and check them. They're both correct, so that's fine. So we're cleared for takeoff runway 29. So what we need to do now is taxi 29. So, we need to turn our strobe on. That would be that one. Anti-collision. Right, let's go. So we are going to release the parking brake. Use our current thing. Now, we're going to do a manual check. We're going to look right. We're going to look left as the tutorial taught us to make sure there's no traffic coming. I can't see anything. It's clear skies. I was sure to turn the multiplayer off so we wouldn't be interrupted by like a 747 trying to land while we're trying to land as well. Nothing breaks the immersion. Quite like coming in for a sweet landing and then realising there's a 747 coming right in. I just realised I don't know which direction runway 29 is in, so 29er, it's to my left. And I bet at this moment you're wondering, how on earth do you know that? And I will explain it to you once we're in the air. See what I did there? See what I did? Oh no. Oh, that's embarrassing. Cue the fail noise. I've gone to the wrong runway. This is runway 11 and I should be on runway 29, which is at the other end. And welcome back. So I corrected my mistake. We're now lined up on runway 29, ready to take off. We've got clearance, so let's get going. So I'm going to shut my little window here because I don't want that noise as I'm taking off. Right, just remembering my training, just going through it verbally. Parking brake's going to be released. We're going to move the throttle to full, or the prop lever should be on max. I've made a mistake there somehow. There we go. The rudder we'll use to maintain the white line until we take off. Rotation speed is 65 knots minimum, but we'll probably look for closer to 70. And the initial climb is accelerated to 78 knots. Now, the first thing that we're learning on this first go round, what's the skill I'm going to try and learn? Retracting and deploying the landing gear. Now, retracting the landing gear, the advice I found online and in the handbook for this aircraft is as soon as you're safely airborne. So as soon as we're off the ground and we feel like we've got a positive rate of climb, I'm going to pull the gear in. Okay, there it is, I found it. Okay, cool. So we've got that, it's next to the flaps lever. So airspeed indicator, check that it's working. Okay, cool. So here we go, stop stalling, let's do this. Right, I'm releasing the brake. Just quick last check, flaps I've got, landing lights in. We're good, let's go. So, flaps are, parking brakes off, we're moving. So I'm going to use the rudder to manage this. I'm going to bring the throttle up to the bulkhead now. So we've got full power. She's a bit squirrely. Oh, this thing wants to go left in a big way. Okay, I'm managing that on the thing. We're keeping to the white line. Airspeed is alive. 65, 70 knots, and back. Ooh, that was rough. Right, positive rate of climb. I'm bringing the gear straight in. Gear is in. That reduces drag. And we're going to look to hit about 90 knots on the climb out. So got 90 knots, we are moving. Okay, and I'm going to start to bring flaps in. Flaps are in, still climbing. Okay, still at that 29 degrees. Right, so we're looking to get to 1,000 feet on this, which is the upwind leg. That's it. Nearly forgot. We go at 900, so we're going to look to level out. Okay, I'm going to bank for the turn. 20-degree bank. I'm going to manage the slip indicator with my rudder. There we go, managed nicely. Oh, we're going a little bit high. So we need to get the throttle down now. Oh, which one? There it is, there it is. I'm going to get it. Okay, there's my airfield. Now, they didn't tell me it was a right pattern, so I'm going to stick with this as a left-hand pattern. So I'm going to do a short stint on this leg. What I'm also going to do is I'm going to drop the prop RPMs to something sensible, so about 2400. There we go. And then I'm going to bring the throttle back up to about level. And then we'll try and measure this. Now, we're quite happy here. We're a little bit over our target altitude. To avoid hitting that mountain, I'm going to bank left now. 20 degrees. Manage the slip indicator with the rudder. Slip ball's a little bit out. I was a bit vicious with it. Okay. Airspeed is good. I'm happy with that. Flaps are in. We officially can turn the landing light off now. And here we are level, but we are still climbing, so quite fast, so I'm not that worried about speed. Get rid of the checklist because we don't need that for the moment. We should be running a beam of the runway. There's the runway. parallel. Right, so I need to reduce my RPMs again. And my throttle should come with it because we're going far too fast. Imagine, we're just too high. Scenery is gorgeous. Okay.
Piper 9er Bravo Foxtrot when calm, clear touch, and go left traffic runway 29er.
Right, so they're getting in touch. Acknowledge my landing clearance.
Cleared for touch and go runway 29er Piper 9er
So
Bravo
got my
Foxtrot.
clearance, that's good. So we're going to wait for the runway to be 45 degrees in my rear view, so that's fine. Right, I want this aircraft to level out. Now I might need to do that with the trim. But actually, see, look what I got now. Vertical speed indicator, that's almost virtually flat on 0. That means I've got my power right where I need it to just maintain a level flight with this airplane. It's gone up a little bit, but she'll settle out. Actually, I'm not unhappy with this altitude because I feel like I'm a little bit close to this terrain, so which is very pretty, but I'm going to go ahead and guess this isn't what you would do in real life because you're quite close to the terrain. Right, airfield's about 45 degrees in my rear view, so I'm going to make a right turn from the downwind onto the base leg. Right, what I want to do now is I want to slowly start to ascend, so I'm actually going to reduce my power now. Right, should have that runway, yep, there, 45, that'll do nicely. Oh, it's a little bit aggressive on that. So we need to get the airspeed down, so I actually need to pull the nose up, because remember we use this to control the thing. Drop my throttle a little bit. Oh, it's not happy because my landing gear's not down yet. Right, I'm going to make a left-hand turn. As soon as my airspeed's into the white, it's now below 100 knots. That means I can put in a degree of flaps. So let's get that in now. 1 degree in, 2 degrees in. It's not happy with the level of flaps. So I'm going to turn on to final. Now that warning is because I'm going to go ahead and assume I'm too slow. But actually I like this. This is nice. I'm not falling too slowly. Right. Landing lights should be on. Let's pop my landing gear down. So gear down is next to my flaps. And then that'll stop that warning. Right, we're aiming for a point on the runway. And we're doing a gentle descent. Now I think this is going to be the key to not bouncing, is to do a nice gentle descent. So this is what we're going to aim for. So I need to work on when the gear comes down. Look at this beautiful ocean, this is gorgeous. There's a lot worse places to practice your circuits. Okay, we're a little bit to the right here, so I'm going to correct that. Steer in. I like this speed. This is nice and slow. Slow is good. Right. I'm going to start to... Now, in theory, for landing, I should turn prop RPM up to max. Let's have another degree of flaps. Let's manage my power. We're good. Come right back down again. Bit more. That last part of that descent's a little bit savage. Come on, baby. Gently. Ooh, come on. You can do it. Power's out. that felt like a bounce. Hello everyone, future me here. Now when I did this flight, I didn't have the benefit of the exterior footage, and as I'm editing this and when I'm looking back over it, I don't feel like that landing was a bounce. Like the wheel touched the floor and I didn't see it disconnect again from the floor. So I am going to count this as a successful landing, a non-bounce, if you will. And yeah, I'm going to score it as such. But if you disagree, feel free to drop a line in the comments and let me know why you disagree. But yeah, I'm counting this. So, without further ado, back to the video. Line it up, full throttle, straight to the wall. We're going to go up again. Ooh. We are up. I'm going to drop a degree of, that's an aggressive amount of flaps. Let's drop a degree of flaps. Right, we're safely off the ground already, so gear's coming up. Why is this thing insisting on turning in a direction? It's because my airspeed's so low. Right, we need some more airspeed, so... Okay, that was atrocious. So... Lesson number 2 is we're supposed to retract the flaps at 300 feet above ground level at 90 knots. We were nowhere near 90 knots on that climb out, so we need to do that better next time. I say we, I need to do that better next time. Right, we've got our cruising power in now. We've just hit 1,000. We're going to bank left and we're going to get that nose back on the horizon so that we can manage our altitude. We're going to manage the slip indicator with the rudder. Gently does it. We're going to get the runway at 45. Level 45 degrees, perfect. Right, we're just above 2000 RPM, so we're 2100 and we're balanced on the manifold pressure, so that's good. We've got 100 knots airspeed, so we can afford to lose a little bit of that. Currently on the base leg, so that was our first landing. Going to do now is we're going to make a turn left because I'm concerned about that terrain. We're going to turn onto the downwind leg. We've got a balanced vertical speed. Do just a little bit more power. We want to come parallel with the runway, which I'd say if we aim for the gap between those hills, that's probably exactly where we want to be. Yeah, that looks good to me. That looks parallel, which I can confirm against my heading indicator. That looks right to me. The next thing that I want to make sure that I get right is extending the flaps. So apparently we need to get to 85 knots and then extend the flaps to their first notch, and that's the notch we should land with. Shouldn't need more flaps than that for this, so let's give that a go this time. Altitude's a little on the high side, and that's because I got the power a little higher than I had it before. So if I pull it back to cruise, which is about 20,000 RPM. So if we get it back to there, then we should, yeah, it'll start to, we're going to lose some altitude, but that's going to increase our speed, which will increase the lift generated by the wings. Which will, yeah, you see the vertical speed starting to climb again now. So
Piper 9er Bravo Foxtrot wind calm clear touch and go left traffic runway 29er.
Right, here we go. Acknowledge landing clearance.
Clear touch and go runway 29er Piper 9er Bravo Foxtrot.
See, I actually think in this instance 1200 is perfectly fine, because I think any lower than that and you're below, I think you're too close to this terrain. I think this is too close anyway. This is probably a right pattern on runway 29, so... Tell you what we'll do, folks, I'm going to call an audible. I'm going to just to shake it up, I'm going to do a right pattern on the next 29. this isn't what you do in real life that I'm aware of. I'm going to go ahead and guess you would know what pattern you should be flying. Otherwise, there would be lots of shouting over the radio. So, yeah, vigorous shouting. So, we want that runway at 45 degrees before we turn. Let's watch, because we've got some terrain now. So I'm going to cross this terrain and I'm going to make my turn. What I'm also going to do now is I'm going to begin to reduce power again so that it starts to reduce my altitude. I'm then going to pitch the nose up to try and get some airspeed off. So I'm going to start making my turn. I'm going to watch the slip indicator on this with the rudder. Okay, we should have the runway in our window there. We should be at 90 degrees to the runway, not 45 as I keep saying, which is about aiming at this shoreline. Level up. We're going to pitch the nose up now because we want to lose a little bit of that airspeed. Drop the power now. Right, we're below 100 knots, so landing gear is going to get deployed. There she goes. Landing gear is coming down. I'm going to turn again. Now towards final. It's a little bit early, that turn. I think I was a bit more over the land part here before I did it, but that's okay. So we're turning in. I need that for 85 knots now so that I can thingy. So what you're supposed to do is the prop RPM lever, the blue one, is supposed to go to maximum for landing. You're going to throttle right back to get that airspeed down, 85. First degree of flaps in. So gear is down, flaps are retracted. We're going far too slowly now. So if we give it a little bit of throttle, and we're going to manage this on the throttle, we are far too slow. I know what was happening. I knew what was happening there. That's why I'm slipping. I'm riding the rudders, so I can get my feet off the rudder for the moment on the way in. So this is no good. I need more power. Manifold pressure up. So airspeed should start to pick up, which it's doing. I can start to run the nose in a little bit now. Keep lined up on that runway. Here we go. Cue the music. Are we going to get the bounce, or are we going to put it down smooth? Right, I'm too far right and I'm a little bit high. So I want one hand on the yoke, one hand on the throttle, and I'm ready on the rudders when we hit the ground. Right, let's come back on the power a little bit. Okay, here we go. Bit faster than I'd like. We're just gonna scrub some of that speed off now. Flared a little bit too early. Come on, baby, come on. There we go. There we go. Right, let's get the rudder in. Back to full throttle. And back off again. We're off the ground. Right. Thing to learn on this takeoff is coming off the ground. Once we get that decent airspeed, that's not fast enough. Keep that nose down. I want to bring up that airspeed. Keep the runway heading. Right, airspeed's getting good. Once we pass 300 feet, got the positive rate of climb. So now we're going to bring in the gear straight away. as soon as we get to 300 feet, we want the flaps in. 300 feet, 90 knots. Flaps in. Perfect. Continue that rate of climb. Okay, this is a good go round. I like this. 500 feet, maintaining the heading. I can come up a little bit because I only need 90 knots. Right, we're going to reduce the engine RPMs back a little bit now to finish the climb out. We did move a little bit there. We are going to roll left now into the turn. Manage the slip indicator. Turn. Right, we've hit our altitude. I'm going to bring the nose back down a little bit now. Come off on the power to our cruise power. There we are, 45 degrees. Let's get straightened up. Sorry, 90 degrees. I keep saying 45. Right. We've hit our target altitude. Our vertical speed is flat. That is smooth as silk. There we go. Okay, that was better that time. Improved. Okay, doing about just shy of 110 knots. A little bit fast, but I'm happy. Right, I'm going to make the turn now because terrain is an issue. There we go, nice little 20-degree turn. Slip indicator is good. Losing a little bit of altitude, but picking up some airspeed, so I'm going to fix that by pitching the nose up a little bit. Sacrificing some of that airspeed for altitude. Right, I'm going to aim for the gap. And here we are, ready for the next downwind. Okay, so we're now in the downwind for this approach. So I said I was going to shake it up and do a right pattern, and I completely forgot, and I'm back in the left. So we'll stay in the left for now, that's fine. I like flying through the mountains, it's all good. So we're just practicing handling really, so that's okay. Now the next thing that I want to show you is, or I want to learn, and that is this acronym that I found for remembering my pre-landing checks, and it is called BUMFISH. So what the heck, that sounds like something rude, but it's not, I assure you. BUMFISH stands for B for brakes, check brake pressure. Now I can't feel them on this obviously because this is a digital set of pedals, but the first thing I'm going to do is pump the brakes, make sure that I've got brake pressure. So I'm going to pretend that I have and go check. The next thing I'm going to check is that the undercarriage is down and locked. Now I can't actually do that in this aircraft at this point because I'm still faster than 100 knots. What I could actually do is reduce my speed a little bit more. Acknowledge my landing clearance.
Clear touch and go
So I can
runway
reduce
29er
power a little
Piper
bit
9er
more,
Bravo
pitch the nose
Foxtrot.
up a little bit more, reduce my speed up to 100 knots, then I would definitely be able to put the gear out. So I'm going to do that now. I'm going to gear out below 100 knots now. Let's put the gear down. So normally I would trim this out, but what I will do is I'll keep manual yoke pressure for now. Mixture, fully rich. Mixture is fully rich. On this aircraft I wouldn't put mixture to, I wouldn't trim the mix until above 5,000 feet. Fuel pump is on to the fullest tank. Now at the moment it's not actually on the fullest tank, so I'm going to actually make a switch now. No, I cut the power. To the right tank. Oh, that is not good at all. Okay, so there's a mistake I made. Rookie error. Okay, luckily I was able to power out of that. So let's pull it back down again. Instruments for night flying, DI line to compass, don't know what I mean. Suction gauge check, suction gauge is good. I got green pressures, green temps. Everything looks good to me. Green fuel pressure's good, so that's all good. So what I'm going to do now is we've hit the end of the downwind. The runway's at 45 degrees behind me, so I'm going to begin my bank onto the base leg of my circuit. Switches, landing lights on. Landing light is on. I never turned it off, so that's fine because we're in the pattern, so there's not really a problem there. And hatches, harness secure, hatches secure. And that's the acronym. We can go through that every single time, and that will help us queue for things we need to remember on the landing check. Checklists are your friend. So what I'm going to do now is we're dropping down towards 85 knots. So I'm going to just take a little bit more power off now. What I'm going to do is, because we're getting towards the final, I'm going to put the prop RPM to its bottom, and I'm going to bring it back down with the throttle. I'm going to throttle up. Right, we're at 85 knots now. We can have a degree of flaps. There we go. So we followed that process again. That's good. And I'm going to turn towards final. And I'm going to bring my throttle up a little bit because I don't like that rate of descent. It's not good. It's a little bit too aggressive. So we'll see if we can curtail it with the throttle. That is way too aggressive of a turn. Okay, I'm actually making a lot of mistakes here, which I'm a bit disappointed about, but that's good because we can all see them. They're there for everyone on the internet to see, and yeah, I can learn from them. There's nothing wrong with making mistakes, as long as you learn from them. What is going on here? Right, everything's ready. This thing's handling like a beast. So I'm not on line with the runway, so that's the first thing I need to do. Rate of descent is still too fast, so I'm going to bring the thing up, throttle up again. Okay, here we go. That's a much nicer rate of descent now. It's much more controlled. So what I'm going to do now is just try and keep the nose pointed at a part of the runway that I want to aim for. And because I seem to need a lot of runway, I'm going to aim for this end of it. I don't think I'm ready for any of those really short dirt strips yet. I will give top marks to this scenery though. This is breathtaking. This is the sort of place it'd be quite cool to fly a seaplane. Right, concentrate, we're coming in. Right, do last minute checks. Gear is down, check. Landing lights on, check. Mixture is full rich, check. Prop levers RPM max, check. Right, everything is about this landing now. Concentrate fully. Right, I'm powering out of it now. I'm just going to let this thing come in naturally. Got one hand on the yoke, one hand on the throttle. Right, we're a little bit too high and a little bit too fast. This is so going to bounce. Come on, baby, don't bounce, don't bounce. Just trying to balance this power out, we're well offline. Come on, this is going to be smooth all day long, out of the power. Come on, come on. Oh no, it bounced, Right, back on, full power. Back off again. There we go. Let's get to 90 knots as quickly as we can. Now, remember, gear up as soon as we have a decent rate of climb, as soon as we're safely away. That would be now, because we don't want that drag. That's coming up. We need more airspeed, so we're going to point the nose down slightly. We're going to keep the runway heading. We want 90 knots, 300 feet. Little bit off, but we can take that. Flaps down and keep climbing. Got 90 knots, decent rate of climb. As long as we keep the heading, then we're good. One down, one to go. I'm going to do a right hand pattern this time, just to shake things up. go. Right, I'm beginning my turn. Also going to pull the power out. Want 45 degrees to the runway. 90 degrees, 90 degrees. There's our runway. I'd say it's about 90. Okay, there we go. And oh, that's far too. What was it doing? Right, cruise power is in. Speed is not ideal. I'm going to manage the gap to the horizon. Right, I'm going to make a turn now to the downwind. So I'm making a gentle turn. Airspeed's coming up, the thing's balancing itself out now. We want to be parallel to the runway. Okay, leveling out. Leveling out. Beautiful. Right. It's number 3 done. We're on to number 4. Let's get this thing straightened out. Come on, baby. Don't give me any dramas. So, hang on. Is that? Yeah, that's fine. Sorry, just checking my recording. So, the next bit of information, which lights should I have on during the day? So, the lights that I should have on during the day, let's get that power down a little bit more, that I'm aware, beacons and strobes should be on during flight. Beacons should be on from pretty much when you start taxiing to when you stop, and strobes should be on from when you get to the hold short line. The navigation lights are for time, and they help other people to determine what direction you're moving in, and what way you're facing.
Piper 9er Bravo Foxtrot Windcom clear touch and go left traffic runway 29er.
Copy that. Acknowledge landing clearance.
Cleared for touch and go runway 29er Piper 9er Bravo Foxtrot.
Let's go through bumfish now so that we've got our thing ready for going. So, brakes, check brake pressure. I'm going to pretend that the brake pressure is feelable and it's okay. Undercarriage is down and locked. I can't do that because I'm going too fast. So we're going to reduce our speed slightly. Like that. And I'm going to pitch up a little bit, which will reduce my airspeed. Airspeed's coming in. So now I can have my landing gear down. That'll add sufficient amount of drag. I need to wait till I see 3 green lights. That'll tell me that all my gears are down. 2 and 3. I have confirmed gear down. Oh, there we go. So that's fine. Mixture fully rich. Check. Fuel pump on, and we're on the fullest tank. We're on the... Why has it gone to the left tank again? That's annoying. Oh, because the left tank is the fullest. Alright, I'll give it that. Ah, there's a feature. I'll tell you about that in a minute. That's basically automatic. I want to switch that off because I want to get used to remembering it. I've got a right-hand turn to make here in a minute. Instruments. Direction indicators aligned to compass. Check and check. We look good there. The suction indicator is on. Suction gauge is good. I've got greens, oil temperatures, pressures, fuel pressures are green, and my multimeter. My battery is charging as expected. Good. Switches, landing lights are on. I've got to make my right turn base now, which means I've got to start managing my throttle. And hatches and harnesses are secure. Check. Acronym done. We are currently coming into the 85 knots range, which means we're coming into the range for the first set of flaps. So what I'm going to do is, because we're on base leg now, in fact this is just going to be a very smooth continuous turn right onto final by the looks of things. What I'm going to do because of that is I am going to drop my throttle, put my prop lever up to max to try and just balance that speed a little bit more. That rate of descent is not what I want, so I'm going to give myself a bit more power. too much because my airspeed's coming up now. I want that airspeed to come down so I can get my flaps out. Okay, I'm lining up for my final approach. Here we go. Okay, we can now do 85 knots. We can get a degree of flaps in, so rate of climb needs to improve. There's a degree of flaps. So we are far too low. So this approach, for the record, is way too low. I'm going to give myself some more power so that I can try and manage this. I think, to be honest, I do need to cut myself some slack because this is a new airplane to me. I've got the prop letter to deal with. There's the landing gear. This is all a lot of new stuff I'm chucking at myself. But I think the only way to get better at something is if you do it more. So, with that in mind, I mean, there's no time like the present to learn. Right, I've got myself into a situation here. Airspeed is far too low. So I'm going to pull up my throttle, and I'm actually in a weird position where I'm actually climbing on my approach. So I'm going to repoint the nose now, manage my throttle a bit more. We're going to manage this approach because we're getting too fast again now. Okay, we're off a little bit, so we need to get back to that centre line. I think I've got a wind issue here, you know why I keep ending up off centre. I'm getting pushed by a wind incoming. Oh, okay, too much flare. Okay, can we avoid the bounce? Come on, baby, gently. Kill the power. That was nice. Okay, cool. That was a lot smoother than I've done before. Going to get back on the power for our final go around. We're going to request a full stop landing this time. Right, we pull back gently there. Okay, we're off the ground. Positive rate of climb. Pulling the gear in. Going to keep on the runway heading. 80 knots. We're pitched too highly there. We need to keep the nose down. We want to be hitting 90 as we come over the 300 mark. Nose down. There we go. That's the easy way. Look, I'm getting the airspeed I want and I'm slowing that ascent. 390 flaps retracted as per procedure. Look at that, beautiful. Right, this is it now, the full stop. Can I stick? I know that I've bounced on at least one of these landings, so I'm shooting for at least 4 out of 5 is probably the best I can do here, but that's okay. We'll take what we can get. Setting the records. Hey, and if you want to have a go at this challenge yourself at home, that would be really cool. Let me know if you do it in the same plane or a different plane, and let me know what success rate you have. You'll probably do better than me, because I am just learning. Right. Oh no, that's all going wrong. Okay, I'm going to make a turn. We've just overshot our altitude, so I'm going to pull the power back to cruise. Okay, I'm going to keep an eye on that airport because I don't want to miss and go too deep. But I'm also watching my heading indicator because that will also tell me when I get to where I want to be. Turn that in a little bit more, manage the slip. Oh, too much. There we go. There's our runway. It says about 45. The heading indicator would agree with me, so just let this pick up some airspeed now. Let's turn the landing light off. Okay, and I've got one bit of information left for you. One new thing that I learned this week that I'm gonna tell you, and I will do that once we get back to the thing because I'm super concentrating right now. Okay, that's enough. I'm gonna make my turn for downwind. Still turning, still turning. We want that parallel with the runway. Okay, here we are, downwind, ready for our final run-in. So what we're going to do is we're going to request a full stop landing.
Bora Bora Tower, Piper November, Echo 9er, Bravo Foxtrot, 900 feet to land.
Piper November, Echo 9er, Bravo Foxtrot, Bora Bora Tower. Altimeter 29er decimal 9er, 2 wind calm, make left downwind runway 29er.
Okay, so it's actually telling me that it wants me to come in
runway,
on the left
Piper,
downwind
Bravo,
runway.
Foxtrot.
Which we're technically on the right downwind, so that would mean we need to fly over that side and come in from that side of the island. And everything is awful and awful. Everything is awful. Everything is poor when you're part of a team. No, everything is awesome is what I meant to say. Yeah, let's get it done. Let's do it. I'm excited. Tip number, I've lost count. The default pattern is always left unless you find a chart, because I looked at a chart for this and I couldn't see any mention of a right hand pattern. He didn't mention right when I got clearance to take off in the pattern, so I should have just assumed and stuck with the fact that it was a left pattern, so I didn't. That's okay. I mean, it's even hot in this room because my PC's chucking out heat like nobody's business, so it actually feels a little bit like I'm there. Sun on my skin. If you're still watching this video, by the way, you're an absolute hero and a legend, and I love you to pieces, and thank you for supporting the channel, because it genuinely means a lot to me, because this is something I've been very anxious about doing, and something that I've been not sure if people would want to watch it. So yeah, you taking the time to watch my video really, it does feel good. Anyway, enough of the mushy stuff, let's get on with it. So the knee boards, so brakes, check brakes for pressure, checking brakes for pressure. I'm going to back off of the power because we're far too high at this point. Undercarriage down and locked, I can't do that yet because my airspeed's still too high, so if we get a bit off, below 100, carriage is down, fuel pump is on, landing lights need to come on. Instruments, directional indicator aligned to compass, yes, check. Suction gauge check, we are good there. Oil pressure is good, oil temperature is good, fuel pressure is good. How are we looking on airspeed? Yeah, it's still good. We are now reducing we're descending now. Instruments are not fine. Switches, landing lights are on, check. All my other lights that I need are on, check. Fuel pump is there, we've checked that already. And hatches and harnesses are secure. Ladies and gentlemen, if you'd like to put your tray tables and seat backs in their upright position, we'll shortly be arriving at Bora Bora Airport. Local time is 0727. I'm going to be making my turn for base right now. So we are looking for, remember, we're looking for 85 knots to deploy the first notch of flaps. So we're going a little bit too fast, so I'm going to pull back on the throttle again. Because we're coming in towards our landing, what I'm going to do is I'll pitch the nose up. That will help me with my airspeed a little bit, and it will reduce my thing. I'm going to shove the lever up to max, and I'm going to pull that down to there. We're making our turn for our final approach. We're at 85. Let's have flaps. Flaps are in. Now, I've got a gut instinct here that if I put in a second degree of flaps, I can afford to be a bit more boisterous with the throttle. Okay, I think that's right. I think that's too early, so there's something I've learned. I'm going to put the flaps back down. I'm going to choose to have a bit more airspeed on the approach because we're still quite a way out. Look at that vertical speed, that's perfect, that's right where I want it. Final checks, gear is down, landing lights are on, mixture is rich, prop RPM lever is to max. We've got everything we need to land. We've got clearance. Okay, let's do this. Concentrate. Cue the music. Oh, can I do it? Can I do it? Concentrate. This scenery, it makes it so hard to concentrate because you're like, woo. The ocean looks beautiful. Right, we're coming in. Right, what's my airspeed at 80 knots? I need that down a bit now. So now I'm going to put in another degree of flaps, like that. Oh, no. Prop lever just, that was a glitch. I don't know why that happened. Prop lever in. Okay, concentrate. Prop lever down a little bit. One hand on the prop, one hand on the yoke. Just bring her in gently. No sudden moves. Airspeed's coming down nicely. Okay, this is good. Flare a little bit. No, that's too much. Gently does it. Oh no. Oh, I'm cross with myself. I am cross with myself.
Piper 9er Bravo Foxtrot, turn next taxiway.
Oh, I'm really cross with myself. I had a...
Piper 9er Bravo Foxtrot, contact ground on 118.9.
Yeah, would do. Right, let's just get off the runway threshold. So we've cleared the runway. Let's acknowledge the ground handoff. And that's it, we'll just taxi to park. So at the end of the last bit of information I said I would give you, I'm not keeping you dangling for nothing. What I'm going to do right quick is do you know what, I'm not going to risk... I want to go through the checklist. I just don't want to risk accidentally throwing the plane up into the sky like before. That's the tab key. There we go. Right, checklist is up. Let's do after landing. So flaps up. So let's retract the flaps. Landing light as required. Yep, we'll run that into taxi. Strobe now needs to come off. The auxiliary boost pump can now come off. Elevator trim resets neutral. We never actually used it, so that's all fine. Shut down. Right, so we'll do shut down when we get there. So parking brake is off. We're going to use the rudder pedals to take us in. And that final bit of information. So I learned something interesting recently about runway numbers. So there's two runways here, runway 11 and runway 29. And on every airfield, on every runway, those numbers are the heading that the runway faces. So when you're flying in that... Sorry, I've got to concentrate here for a second so I get this right, because I'm really cross with myself over that landing. I'm furious. I know I've got a better landing in me. Get parked before I start beating myself up too much. We're in. Oof. Steady. So clearly I need practice. That's what's come out of that. So... yeah, the runway numbers. So we've got two runways here, 11 and 29, and they relate directly to the heading that the runway faces. So 11 is 110 degrees and 29 is 290 degrees. So that's how I know, how I can use my heading indicator to tell whether I'm parallel with the runway or not. I can look at it and say, right, am I on heading 110 degrees? Yes, I am. I'm now officially directly parallel with the runway. And I didn't know that till recently. You probably all know that. I didn't. So that's a handy little tip. So I just want to thank everybody. If you're still watching this video, you're epic. Don't forget to drop a like. Let me know that you enjoyed it. Subscribe to the channel because I clearly have a lot more learning to do. So come along and join me for that. And hopefully watch me get better and better and better as I start to learn more and more things. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.